the picturesque cliffs and valleys of the Dordogne River in the Lot department of south-central France, the home of a heritage railway that continues to run daily excursions of steam power. A dedicated and hard-working team has run a successful steam railroad here for nearly 30 years. Using coal as mainline fuel, the 3 operational locomotives can shuttle 2,500 tourists per day up the steep grade of the river valley, along an impressively engineered stretch of track to the town of Martel. It crosses a viaduct running up a grade of over 2%, built at a high cost from 1880 to 1884. Travel along with me today as we discover the history and current-day operations of this incredible success story. For today's trivia question, what does the steam locomotive designation 080 stand for? And if you know that answer, what is its European equivalent? Listen carefully throughout the video and you just might find the answer. If not, I'll explain at the end.
Hi, welcome to this episode of Touring Backroads France. We're in the town of Martel today in the Lot department, looking at a heritage railway association, which is called le Chemin de fer Touristique de Haut-Quercy, also known as the Truffle Train. Now, this heritage association runs 3 different steam locomotives through the high season in the summer. They do a lot of work to keep them maintained and have acquired them successively since 1997. Last year, they had over 120,000 visitors to the site. Today, I'm going to talk with some of the members of the association. We'll look at what they do and how they got started, as well as what they're projecting to do in the future. One of the things they're looking into right now is what you see behind me here, a vélo-rail, which they use as a pedal bike to go down the 3 miles of track that are behind me here. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Come with me today as we visit the Heritage Association.
The popularity of this heritage line could very easily have been a different story. Initially, Martel was not slated to be added to the rail network, as local geographer and historian Paul Claval explained.
Il a été refusé donc pour la première ligne qui a été construite dans les années 1860 et qui est passée à Saint-Denis-près-Martel, à 5 km, mais qui n'a pas profité à Martel.
Despite the town's important role in commerce and trade, the railroad wouldn't arrive until 1880, when a western extension from Saint-Denis-près-Martel was planned to extend into the Dordogne, through Sarlat-la-Canéda, permitting a direct east-west route to the major cities of Bordeaux and Lyon.
La deuxième ligne, la ligne qui a desservi Martel, était une ligne qui allait de Bordeaux à Aurillac et au-delà au col du Lioran qui permet de franchir le Cantal. Et l'ambition à l'origine était de faire un axe de Bordeaux à Genève.
Clearly, the terrain here would require investment and ingenuity. Rugged terrain made numerous tunnels and viaducts a necessity. At the time, there was money for the construction, owing to the important export market for products such as wine, lavender, and livestock. While those products dominated the freight rosters, one local item would outshine them all: truffles. The Truffle, or the Truffle Train as it was known, would make its calling stop in Martel.
Courtiers en truffes, les mandataires des maisons qui transformaient la truffe arrivaient par le train le matin et faisaient le tour de tous les cafés. Et entre 9h le matin et 4h, il ne se passait rien. Les gens s'informaient. Et puis là, les transactions commençaient. Et en 1 heure, tout était liquidé. De manière à ce que les truffes prennent le train qui repartait à 6 heures. Et donc le truffado.
From 1890 until 1930, Martel would dominate the truffle export market, being the major trading center for the 2,500 tons sold annually during that period. For comparison, today's market is less than 100 tons per year, with prices significantly higher. Taxes and tariffs have become a major factor in black market sales, making the official production numbers hard to estimate, but they are considerably lower than at the turn of the century. In my documentary about the town of Martel, I'll go into some of the reasons why. The line was scrapped for its steel during the First World War in 1917, then rebuilt with American rails in 1919. They remain in place until this day. After Sarlat became the terminus on the western end of the line, the increasingly segmented portions, along with the general decline in secondary rail lines, spelled the end of the Truffle Train. In 1980, the section of the line from Souillac to Saint-Denis-Près-Martel was abandoned, the rails left to become overgrown and reclaimed by nature. A few kilometers have since been removed between Souillac and west of Badadou. There were proposals made to dynamite the Bramfond Viaduct, measuring 300 meters long and over 40 meters high, around the time of the construction of the A20 toll road, which crosses the valley alongside it. While the construction destroyed part of the right-of-way, there is apparently an agreement that the privately owned highway would need to build an underpass should the railroad be put back in use. Fortunately, the viaduct was left to stand and dominate the landscape around it, an impressive piece of 19th century engineering. One can speculate why anyone would want to have it destroyed. In 1991, the civil engineer Philippe Coudeville, along with local residents, created an association to bring the line back to life. After 6 years of paperwork, meetings, certifications, worker training, planning, and funding, the portion of the line from Martel to Saint-Denis-Près-Martel was acquired. Steam operations could finally begin. From these humble beginnings, a major tourist stop has now come to life in the former freight house, welcoming tens of thousands of people from across the world every season. Running multiple steam locomotives requires heavy daily maintenance, with wood and coal used as fuel and thousands of liters of water converted to steam, obtained from the Dordogne River basin. Water, heat, and steam create a corrosive environment for the metal parts, which need regular replacement and repair. After having talked with several of the mechanics on duty at the workshop, I sat down to talk with Technical Director Alban Lacarrière at the station coffee shop.
Bonjour, Alban Lacarrière, je suis salarié au train du Haut-Quercy depuis 2007. Donc je suis rentré en tant qu'agent polyvalent, mécanicien. Et je suis directeur technique depuis 2017. Gérer la partie technique, atelier, les locomotives. La partie voie ferrée aussi, parce qu'on a l'entretien de la ligne et planification des travaux, gestion des équipes.
Et en parlant de cette ligne, alors elle a quand même une histoire assez particulière. Est-ce que tu peux en dire quelques mots par rapport à l'histoire de la ligne?
Elle a été construite notre portion, entre 1881 et 1882. Et le besoin au départ était de relier Bordeaux à Aurillac, faire une transversale pour, dans un sens, descendre le bois pour faire les flux des grands vins de Bordeaux, et dans l'autre sens ramener le sel pour les charcuteries et tout. Donc c'était pour concurrencer en fait les gabarres, c'est à l'époque.
Et la truffe se présente comment dans cette histoire?
Alors la truffe c'était plus par rapport à Martel, c'était le plus gros marché aux truffes de la région, donc ça c'est venu un peu plus tard. Mais le point principal c'était de remplacer le transport fluvial.
Et quand ils ont conçu une ligne ferroviaire ici, dans cette partie du département, quels sont les défis majeurs pour la construction?
Il faut passer du Causse à la vallée. On est sur le plateau, après on descend en tranchée, il a fallu creuser les tranchées, les premiers tunnels. Après on a un grand tunnel en courbe qui débouche à flanc de falaise. Donc après il a fallu faire la voie en corniche pour rattraper le fond de la vallée. Donc avec des viaducs et
beaucoup de main-d'œuvre.
Beaucoup de main-d'œuvre, il y avait jusqu'à 2000 ouvriers qui travaillaient sur la voie.
Pour l'acquisition des locomotives, vous en avez 3 ici?
3 en fonctionnement, 2 en expo et une autre pour pièces entre guillemets ou peut-être une prochaine restauration. Et au départ, l'association a commencé à exploiter son ligne en 1997 avec une machine en vapeur. Dès la première année, elle roulait en vapeur. Et la 040 qui circule aujourd'hui, qui avait été acquise en 2010, qui a pris à partir de la saison 2013 jusqu'à aujourd'hui.
Et pour tout le reste du parc, je sais pas comment on peut appeler ça, le parc mobilier.
Matériel.
Matériel.
Parc matériel, oui.
Donc qu'est-ce que vous imaginez comme utilisation? Ou est-ce que ça va rester en l'état? Ou qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
C'est beaucoup de travail à entretenir. C'est le problème.
On
On commence à avoir beaucoup de matériel, on ne peut pas tout entretenir. Donc là, je pense qu'on est arrivé au maximum de notre capacité. Ce qui a permis de faire développer l'association depuis le début.
Et j'avais une autre question aussi par rapport à la ligne qui continue dans l'autre sens, vers Souillac. Il y a une partie de la ligne qui reste intacte, en fait, les rails sont toujours là. Est-ce que c'est possible un jour que ça revienne à l'utilisation ou ça demanderait trop d'investissement? Et ça vous appartient peut-être?
On a la moitié.
La moitié.
Il reste 6 km, on a l'équivalent de à peu près 3 km. Et les 3 km restants, on devrait signer l'achat dans le mois qui suit.
Ah, ok.
Donc on a un projet de vélo-rail, rénovation complète. Vélo-rail dans un premier temps, mais le but est de faire rouler les trains. On a récupéré des traverses bi-blocs, donc béton-acier, faites de blocs de béton, sur un chantier SNCF pas très loin d'ici. Donc on a récupéré 11 500 traverses avec les fixations pour notre type de rail. Donc ça c'est le prochain gros projet qui devrait démarrer d'ici l'hiver prochain.
Et les rails qui sont actuellement en place, c'est des rails américains, si j'ai bien compris.
Oui, c'est de l'ARA type B, qui est plus très peu courant, difficile à trouver. Et on a eu la chance de récupérer tous ceux qui ont été démontés sur la suite de la ligne. On est le 3e site touristique du département. Donc, il y a le gouffre de Padirac, Rocamadour. Enfin, Rocamadour, il n'y a pas vraiment de compteur, mais le premier site, c'est Padirac. Le deuxième site, c'est le pont Valentré. On est 3e. On a presque 120 000 voyageurs à l'année, sur 6 mois, notre période d'exploitation. Donc on amène vraiment beaucoup de monde sur Martel, plus les emplois, les personnes qui sont employées forcément qui habitent sur Martel ou aux alentours, les saisonniers. On monte jusqu'à 20 personnes employées juillet-août.
Pourquoi des locomotives à vapeur?
C'est le produit atypique. Même en demi-saison, on fait circulation diesel et circulation vapeur. Vapeur, c'est tout le temps plein. C'est vraiment le produit d'appel de l'association. C'est ce qui fait notre force, je pense.
Merci beaucoup Alban pour ce temps accordé pour l'entretien et puis bonne continuation à tous ici dans l'association.
Merci à toi, bonne continuation aussi.
In the high season, the routine and work schedule here can be pretty intense. With between 4 and 8 scheduled excursions per day, the station is a bustling and busy place. The team starts the morning with routine checks and part maintenance, moving the steam engines out of the workshop with the diesel assist, on this locomotive, the firebox is lit up with wood. Once the temperature is high enough, coal then replaces the wood for a more efficient burn. High-grade coal is sourced outside of France, and even for a short distance, the quantities burned can be surprising. Here's a quick look at the numbers. For a standard excursion, the steam locomotives here use around 250 kilograms of coal, or over 500 pounds. Water usage equals 1,500 liters, or about 400 US gallons. These, of course, are variable depending on the locomotive used and other factors. On the day of my visit, the primary tractive power was from a 080, called a 040 in French. This means it has 4 tractive wheels in the center on each side. Built in 1927 in Alsace, it still has its original construction plaque. 2 other steam locomotives are in operation currently, both Polish-built and much more recent. One is a 060 configuration called a 030 Ferrum, or Marine, built in 1956. The third is a 080 Slask from Chrzanów, Poland, built in 1963 and acquired in Belgium in 2014. Alongside the platform sits an impressive German-built BR-50 featuring 1930s technology and built in 1961. It's not operational given the maintenance requirements and operation costs involved. Its presence on site is nonetheless a point of interest. Let's go for a ride. The excursion lasts about an hour and 15 minutes. It's advisable to arrive early. Where you choose to sit along the open-air coaches will determine your proximity to the locomotive, including the smoke and noise that it produces. It's important to be aware of this if you're riding with small children or are sensitive to the air quality, particularly in the tunnels. Arriving early will give you better seating options. The ride stops twice along the route, once at the cliffside scenic overlook of the Dordogne River Valley at a height of 80 meters or around 250 feet, On the return trip, there's a whistle stop at the top of the Haut-Quercy viaduct where refreshments can be purchased. Initially, the journey seems slow, as the locomotive is used to regulate the train's speed downhill. On the way back up, the full power of the locomotive is put on display as it pulls passengers up the grade with ease. It then coasts honorably back into the historic town of Martel with a splendid view of the medieval town centre and a number of fantastic shops and restaurants just a short walk from the station. The French National Railway, SNCF, runs regular passenger service out of Saint-Denis-près-Martel on two lines that run north, south, and east. There's no connection between the mainline service and Heritage Line, although perhaps one day, if the red tape were made easier, this could become a possibility. Extending west from Martel for another few miles, the track is expected to become a vélo-rail, or pedal bike service. Overgrowth and underbrush would need to be removed and the track refurbished to support maintenance work. As of today, plans and agreements are in the works for next season. The answer to today's trivia questions. An 080 or 080 represents the wheel arrangement of a locomotive with 4 tractive wheels in the center on each side. The first 0 represents no leading wheels, and last 0 means no trailing wheels. This is from the white notation system, which began use in the early 1900s in the United States and the United Kingdom to standardize locomotive notation and record keeping. In Europe, and most of the world, the International UIC system is used. It's a more complex and more complete notation method. In France, a 080 would be noted as a 040 or 040, with only the wheels on one side being counted. For more information and sources I included in this video, take a look at the references in the description below. If you learned something new today, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out my other playlists about the history of the backroads places in France, the Knights Templar, the Roman Empire, the French Resistance, and a lot more. Until next time, merci et au revoir.